The life of the British royal family has long been associated with glamorous ceremonies, fairy tale stories, and a flawless public image. But behind the opulent velvet curtain lies secrets few dare to touch. Today, you are about to embark on a journey to uncover a scandal that could shake the entire history of the British monarchy. Camilla has confessed. Charles has crumbled, and a truth threatens to shatter all faith in an institution once seen as a symbol of stability. For decades, the death of Princess Diana has haunted not only the British people, but the entire world. But who was truly behind that fateful night in Paris? Was it merely an accident, or the result of cold calculations hidden behind royal smiles? In this video, we will bring you previously untold details, chilling confessions, and events that could forever change how you view the British royal family. Stay until the very last moment, as every second unveils a new secret, a piece of the puzzle never before revealed. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is a vital part of this conversation. In the heart of Paris, under the relentless gaze of paparazzi, the most beloved princess of the 20th century met her fate in a tragic car accident. The vehicle sped frantically, trying to escape the tireless pursuit of photographers. But what no one expected was that, years later, the story would take a turn that left the world in shock. The unthinkable happened. Camilla Parker Bowles, now queen consort and an eternally controversial figure in the royal family, walked through the heavy doors of a London courtroom, defying everything and everyone. The investigation into Diana's death, considered closed decades ago, was brutally reopened thanks to bombshell evidence that shook the British system to its core. Camilla was not only subpoenaed, she voluntarily presented herself, something unimaginable just weeks earlier, in a stifling courtroom, with millions watching live. Camilla, visibly weary and somber, shattered her regal mask, dressed in a simple navy blue suit with disheveled hair. She bore little resemblance to the elegant image the world knew. The tension reached its peak when Judge Richard Harrington asked her to begin her testimony. The room, filled with anticipation, fell silent. Today, I don't speak as a queen consort, she declared with a choked voice. I'm here as Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman who existed in August 1997. I acknowledge my role in the events surrounding the tragedy that took Diana from us. And I come, though late, to beg for forgiveness. The shock was immediate. Murmurs filled the room. Outside, the world held its breath. Camilla continued, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. Neither Charles nor I ever intended to harm Diana, but I cannot hide the truth about my actions. After a dramatic pause and a trembling sip of water, she revealed something few would dare admit. Haunted by fear of what Diana might expose about the royal family's dark secrets, Camilla confessed to resorting to questionable methods to monitor her. She contacted a former British and French intelligence agent known only as Ouroboros, a phantom from the espionage underworld. The initial goal was surveillance to uncover meetings, conversations, and plans. The result was a chain of uncontrollable events. It was revealed that Henri Paul, deputy head of security at the Ritz Hotel, an easily manipulated man, was enticed with money and promises of protection. He was ordered to act irresponsibly, taking Diana and Dodi through the back exit, evading photographers, and avoiding any record of their movements. This hasty decision plunged everyone into chaos. When Camilla described that moment, her voice broke for the first time. Her guilt-filled eyes swept the room. It was impossible to ignore the gravity of her words. The public now wonders How far would someone go to protect the crown's secrets? What seemed a precautionary measure became the trigger for the greatest tragedy in modern royal history. Camilla did not name who directly caused Diana's death, but admitted that hiring private surveillance sparked a series of fatal decisions: the altered route, the unsuitable vehicle, and the deadly speed. The entire courtroom seemed to freeze. The weight of her confession hung like a shadow. "I never wanted that to happen," Camilla whispered. Her voice choked. "I only tried to protect, but I failed to control those I trusted. And that mistake cost us something irreparable." If the confession about the surveillance was shocking, what followed left the room speechless. With red eyes but a stoically restrained expression, Camilla described the moment the news of the Paris accident struck her like a blade. Instead of seeking comfort in Charles's arms, as many might imagine, she called her shadowy contact who had organized Diana's surveillance. "I needed the truth immediately," she stated, her voice deeper than ever. On the other end of the line, she heard a terrifying explanation. Henry Paul, the driver, had been encouraged to act recklessly. The paparazzi were just the tip of the iceberg. Camilla froze. No one wanted to kill her. Her contact whispered, "But now there's no turning back." What followed was a night of absolute chaos. As Camilla revealed, a desperate operation to cover it up ensued: frantic calls, silent orders, vanished documents, and key witnesses asked to suppress their accounts. Henry Paul was conveniently portrayed by the media as an irresponsible drunk. The royal protection machinery was set in motion, and no one dared stop it. Facing the courtroom, Camilla's voice nearly vanished. "I allowed it to happen. I stayed silent. I sank with it." When a defense lawyer tried to challenge her narrative, citing lack of evidence, the judge intervened, making it clear Camilla would have her moment to finish. Whatever the cautement, what she revealed next was even more devastating. After the accident, Charles, the man who would be king, went into absolute shock. Watching the Paris images on television, he murmured, "What have we done?" Camilla confessed. "I had no answer. I didn't even understand what we had truly done." When pressed further, she remained silent for so long that her eventual response was piercing. She said she had lived all these years under a mask, playing the monarch's wife while hiding corrosive guilt that consumed her. But it wasn't public opinion that broke her. It was a child's innocence. Charlotte, Prince William's daughter, asked her father directly, "Did Camilla have something to do with Grandma no longer being here?" Camilla wasn't present. But when William shared the question, it was as if her entire castle of secrets collapsed before a room that barely dared breathe. Camilla dropped a bombshell no one was prepared for. "If I remained silent, future generations would grow up immersed in a lie," she said, clutching a tissue not to dry tears but perhaps to steady her trembling hands. "I'm not here asking for forgiveness. I don't think I deserve it. I'm here to tell the truth so her children in the world that don't live trapped in the wreckage of a fabricated story." The impact of these words hung like a suffocating curtain over the court. Then, the public prosecutor's office stunned everyone further, immediately requesting the analysis of confidential documents that, according to Camilla, triggered her public confession. These documents, personal diaries and secret recordings, were left as a kind of will by a deceased former member of the surveillance network who chose to expose everything before her death. Camilla was direct. "Every step I took is recorded. The instructions to follow Diana, the contacts with RA by Henry Paul, the reasons, everything is documented. I cannot deny I was the starting point of that tragedy. The courtroom plunged into a silence so dense it was almost palpable. For the first time in decades, the veil was torn away. Judge Richard Harrington, with a grave expression, announced a 15-minute break to review the material. As the audience rose in shock, Camilla remained motionless, staring at the microphone as if still battling ghosts that never left her. Behind the scenes, chaos erupted. Royal lawyers frantically debated whether to suspend the trial or attempt damage control. But it was too late. The truth had been unleashed and was spreading in real time to millions of homes worldwide. When the hearing resumed, the prosecution delivered the final blow material evidence Camilla had mentioned, including a poor quality but devastating audio tape. The recording was clear. A voice, recognized as that of a now-deceased former security agent, described a meeting with Camilla where she explicitly ordered, "Diana cannot continue to harm this family. Follow her every step." The defense lawyer tried to object, claiming the tape could have been tampered with. But under crushing pressure, Camilla whispered, "I said this. I will not deny." Like an unprecedented earthquake, the news tore through the world. Breaking news headlines declared, Queen Consort Camilla admits to ordering secret surveillance against Princess Diana within Buckingham Palace's walls. The reaction was paralysis. Informed personally, King Charles stood in silence, walked slowly to a window, and murmured, "I always knew there was something hidden, but I never imagined it would go this far." Across the Atlantic, Diana's children received the news. William, in the middle of a meeting about social projects, dropped everything and called his wife. Harry, in the United States at a mental health event, couldn't hide his shock when approached by journalists. In minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags like #JusticeForDiana and #Camilla exposed dominated global trends. The House of Cards had collapsed. Old black and white photos of Diana flooded timelines. And videos of her final public appearance, her serene smile with a glint of sadness, went viral as a silent demand for justice across generations. Outside Buckingham Palace, a sea of flowers, candles, and banners emblazoned the people's revolt. 28 years is enough. The truth has emerged. Inside the courtroom, the tension was unbearable. The prosecutor cut to the chase without mercy. If this surveillance had not been ordered, would Princess Diana still be alive? Time seemed to freeze. Camilla, staring blankly as if carrying centuries of guilt, finally replied with a breaking voice, "I can't say for sure, but deep in my heart, I know that if I hadn't started this chain of events, that night might never have happened. And that doubt will haunt me until my last day." No one spoke, but everyone knew the world had changed forever, not just because of what happened in 1997, but because, for the first time in modern monarchy history, a top-ranking member broke the pact of silence before the entire planet. The visibly shaken judge announced another pause to deliberate, but there was no going back. The British monarchy would never be the same. While the court recessed, hundreds remained outside in silent vigil, not a protest, not a spectacle, but history being written before everyone's eyes. In a small cafe, with the trial broadcast live, a woman burst into tears as Camilla stood to testify. "I never thought she would speak," she whispered between sobs. "But she spoke, and now everything will change." Another replied, "At Windsor Castle." Prince William stared blankly at the broadcast. Catherine entered discreetly, placing a hand on his shoulder in silence. With a low, broken voice, William murmured, "She spoke to the world before she spoke to us." His gaze fixed on the screen. He added, "Charlotte asked about grandmother. Now we have an answer. But it's not the one I wanted to give her." Meanwhile, in California, Prince Harry watched, his hand held by Meghan. His deep, sad voice broke the silence Mother warned us. But no one wanted to listen. Now the world has no choice. The hearing resumed, and Judge Harrington, tense, signaled the prosecutor to continue. The prosecutor then asked a question that set the courtroom ablaze. "Could you tell us the name of the former agent you hired to spy on Diana?" Camilla lowered her head. Her response was sharp. "I never knew his real name. I only knew him as Packer. They say he worked for MI5. A whisper shot through the room like lightning. It was no longer just a scandal. It was an earthquake. The prosecutor pressed further right after the accident. "Your first call was to Packer. Did you know this could constitute obstruction of a criminal investigation?" Camilla looked up, her voice now cold and resigned. "I knew. But at that moment, all I could think about was protecting myself, Charles, and his children." The judge asked bluntly, "Did you try to hide the truth?" A long, deadly silence followed. With an almost imperceptible nod, Camilla signaled the mask had finally fallen. As the courtroom burned with escalating revelations, the political world reacted. The British Prime Minister issued a cautious statement: "We are monitoring developments and will ensure justice prevails." But the opposition was relentless, demanding a special commission to investigate the royal family's role in what was unfolding before the public's astonished eyes. The prosecutor focused on one of the darkest shadows of Camilla's testimony: the deletion of evidence post-Diana's death. "Did you order the destruction of documents?" The question sliced through the air. Camilla hesitated. "I never used the word destroy, but I made it clear it would be better if nothing linked to me surfaced." She admitted softly. When pressed on who received this message, she added, "Communications advisors, royal security team members, I can't name them all." The defense lawyer tried to intervene, citing lack of evidence. But the judge, with a stern expression, noted the objection and allowed the trial to proceed. The revelations were too significant to ignore. When asked to list the names she could recall, Camilla discreetly handed a piece of paper to an officer. Each name read aloud was a bombshell figures tied to palace communications. Some still active, others retired, all linked to the cover-up. By day's end, headlines were merciless. Camilla exposes network of media manipulation after Diana's death. The court summoned 5 new witnesses. Crowds swelled outside Buckingham Palace and the courthouse, with white roses, symbols of Diana's purity, covering the squares. The wound the monarchy tried to hide for 28 years was brutally reopened. A BBC journalist closed his broadcast with a phrase that echoed, "The history of the British monarchy is no longer written with crowns and medals, but with tears, confessions, and painful truth." The next day, the United Kingdom awoke in shock. Every newspaper, from the Times to the Daily Mail, featured the same image: Camilla leaving the court, pale and defeated, under the devastating headline, "I take responsibility." Inside the royal palaces, the atmosphere was one of devastation. According to sources, King Charles spent the day in silence, isolated among old documents and forgotten memories. Asked to speak out, he refused, saying, "Today, I just need to remember." At Windsor Castle, William received a full copy of Camilla's statement. He read in dead silence, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table with each mention of his mother. A mix of anger and helplessness. When Catherine entered with a cup of tea, no words were needed, a single glance sufficed. They both knew a door had opened, and it could not be closed. In Montecito, Harry reacted viscerally. She knew. He murmured with teary eyes to Megan. Silence. Denial. Cover-up. And now, after everything, she confesses. Megan hugged him, whispering, at least now the world knows, even late. The truth has won. Back in court. Summons began. Richard Wismere, a former Royal Communications advisor from 1996 to 2000, entered with firm steps and a tense but determined expression. He delivered a confession no one expected. I confirmed that I received direct orders from Camilla Parker Bowles, now Queen Camilla, to hide, destroy, or remove any document, image, recording, or testimony linking her to Princess Diana's death. The final bombshell had dropped, and what followed promised to be even more devastating. Camilla never explicitly said, erase evidence. But the intent was clear as day. The courtroom was in shock when a prosecutor, with a grim expression, produced a printed copy of an explosive email sent from an internal royal family address hours after the Paris accident. The content was direct: eliminate any trace that could link Camilla to tonight's events. The prosecutor fixed his eyes on Camilla and asked coldly, do you deny having ordered this? Camilla shook her head almost imperceptibly. I don't recall using the word eliminate. But if someone understood it that way, the responsibility is mine. The room, already dazed, could barely process what was heard. For the first time in history, a British royal not only admitted fault, but left a written trail. Given the revelation's magnitude, Judge Harrington ordered a 15-minute break for deliberation. Meanwhile, global news offered no respite. A CNN correspondent declared live, today, we're not talking about rumors. We're facing an official confession under oath that could rewrite the history of the British monarchy. Outside, the commotion grew. White flowers gathered under an aged portrait of Diana hanging from the court bars, with a handwritten note at 8 years. And they finally heard the truth. At a nearby corner, a man holding white roses summed up the sentiment: I believed in the monarchy my whole life. Now, I only believe in the truth. Amid this emotional chaos, another twist shook the nation. The Attorney General's office announced it was considering criminal charges against Camilla for obstruction of justice, concealment of evidence, and indirect complicity in a fatal accident. The question thundered: could the United Kingdom's Queen Consort be convicted and even arrested? Outside the court, the atmosphere was suffocating. The royal legal team left in silence, surrounded by journalists hungry for answers no one dared give. On social media, outrage became an overwhelming wave, with hashtags like Justice for Diana and #Camilla Confess dominating trends. Balmoral Castle, where the royal family sought refuge after Diana's death, citizens traveled hundreds of kilometers to leave a single white rose at the gates. We couldn't be in Paris then, a young woman cried. But today, we can do something. This was uncharted territory. No queen consort in office had ever faced a criminal trial. But never had someone so high-ranking admitted to contributing to the tragedy that took Princess Diana's life. Amid London's darkness, a single point of intense light shone Buckingham Palace, its windows ablaze. Inside, King Charles gathered trusted advisors and lawyers. But it wasn't just pain in the air, it was fear. Fear of a centuries-old institution's collapse. Sitting with fingers intertwined, Charles stared at a pile of documents, Camilla's testimony transcripts, stamped with the royal court's seal. "She never told me," he muttered, almost to himself. "Or maybe I didn't want to know." The room's silence was deafening. For the first time in decades, the aging monarch voiced the unthinkable. He was no longer sure if he was entirely innocent in the tragedy that shaped the British monarchy's destiny. An advisor dared suggest, "Your Majesty, you must speak. The people demand the truth from the royal house." Charles shook his head, his gaze blank. "How can I speak if I don't even know who I was in that story across the Atlantic?" Harry watched every minute of the revelations on television. That night, a call bridged the ocean. For the first time in a long while, there were no fights between the brothers, just silence and shared pain. "Do you feel better?" William asked, his voice breaking. After a pause, Harry replied softly, "It wasn't the accident that killed her. It was the silence of those who should have spoken." As the United Kingdom teetered on the edge of institutional collapse, another bombshell dropped. The Attorney General's office summoned new witnesses, key figures from the royal circle between 1997 and 2005. One name stood out: Harvard Mallory, Charles's former personal secretary, known for his absolute discretion. In court, Mallory entered calmly and revealed a private meeting on September 5th, 1997, 4 days after the accident. Present were Camilla, 2 senior Home Office officials, and an MI5 representative, deciding what information to suppress to protect national stability. "Did anyone use the word cover-up?" the prosecutor asked. Mallory replied coldly, "Not directly. But one sentence stuck: we need to control the narrative." And it was Camilla who said it. The room erupted in murmurs. Journalists worldwide exchanged stunned glances. It was the first clear evidence of possible collaboration between the royal family and intelligence services to manipulate facts. The shock didn't end there. Another bombshell came from Elaine Turner, former head of communications at Clarence House. In tears, she confessed, "I created stories to protect Camilla's image. I wrote Camilla strong, Camilla resilient. But the truth was," she paused, swallowing tears. "The truth is, she was terrified and, deep down, knew she was guilty." As testimonies mounted, Camilla's confession video, with her iconic phrase, "I don't ask for forgiveness, I just want the truth told," dominated social media. In under 48 hours, #Justice for Diana surpassed 200 million mentions, becoming one of the largest digital campaigns in history. In Parliament, the crisis deepened. Opposition MPs not only called for Camilla's abdication, but demanded urgent constitutional reforms to ensure no royal would be above the law. The nation was fractured. A YouGov poll revealed devastating figures: 68% of Britons wanted Camilla prosecuted. 45% supported her immediate loss of the Queen Consort title, and 22% advocated for Charles's abdication. An Oxford constitutional law professor summarized on television, "We're witnessing the biggest institutional earthquake since Edward VIII's abdication in 1906. Amid this political and emotional hurricane, a silent image went viral. At Kensington Palace's gates, a 10-year-old girl held a handmade sign: 'I didn't know Diana, but I believe in her.' That night, the UK stood still. A BBC special, Diana: The Hidden Truth, aired nationally, featuring veteran journalists and never-before-heard witnesses. The royal family watched in silence, no one daring to break the reverent atmosphere. During the broadcast, a leaked recording surfaced, attributed to a former security agent named Markley. The revelation was devastating. Our order was to observe. A hoarse voice said, but that night, we received a call from London. A firm female voice ordered us to ensure nothing tarnished the royal family's honor. Camilla's name wasn't mentioned, but experts had no doubt the details matched her court confession. Public opinion exploded again. At Princess Charlotte's school, the crisis reached even the children. Photos of Diana were brought to classrooms, with a question echoing among the young, did Madame Camilla cause Grandma's death? A mother commented on social media. I've never seen royal history so clear to innocent eyes. Newspapers grew fiercer. The Guardian printed in bold, if Camilla confessed. Can Charles still be king? The editorial was blunt. The monarch's silence could be read as complicity or coldness in the face of the monarchy's greatest tragedy. Inside the palace, cracks were exposed. Sources revealed William refused Charles's request for a family meeting, saying, I need time. I can't sit there as if this is normal. In the U.S., Harry prepared an unprecedented speech. A close friend told American media, Harry feels if he doesn't speak now, he may never get the chance again. In Buckingham Palace, Camilla retreated into isolation, not leaving her room for 3 days, speaking only through her assistant. A guard confided to the press, she doesn't look sad, she looks empty. Outside, the revolt grew. Night vigils covered the gates with candles, flowers, and posters reading, we don't forget, we don't forgive. Women in black, wearing Anne-style hats, marched around James's Lake with banners, no place for lies. The pressure on Charles became unbearable. A live poll asked, should King Charles abdicate and pass the throne to William? The result was overwhelming. 54% said yes, 27% said no. The rest undecided. For the first time, the Prime Minister spoke in Parliament with respect to the Crown. We demand total transparency. No one is above the truth. International headlines were merciless. CNN's royal earthquake. Lisbon's The Truth of London. NHK's The Queen's Confession. Buckingham Palace issued a brief, cold statement. King Charles is taking time to consider every detail. An official response will follow in the coming days. But for a people hungry for justice, days seem too late. On social media, a new hashtag emerged like a collective cry, Diana Never Forgotten, accompanied by a heart-wrenching image of Diana smiling in a rare moment of peace, hugging her 2 young sons. With a car's silhouette fading into darkness, an image that spoke louder than 1,000 words. The morning after the historic trial, Windsor Castle's ancient walls seemed to have aged centuries. A secret meeting was called behind locked doors among key royal family members. No photos, no press conferences, just heavy glances among people who no longer trusted each other. Camilla did not attend. A dejected King Charles sat at the head, William motionless beside him. Royal advisors and the communications head watched, not daring to break the atmosphere of ruin. After endless minutes, Charles broke the silence. If this is the price of truth, I'm willing to pay it. More than a fallen husband's speech. It was a monarch's confession on the abyss's edge. William nodded slightly. Deep down, they knew there was no return. Meanwhile, away from public eyes, Kate Middleton and her children took refuge in a discreet Norfolk convent. Charlotte, with a child's innocent curiosity, asked, "Mummy, if she hadn't had that accident, would I have known Grandma Kate?" Struggling to respond. Later wrote in a private note that went viral, "I saw her as a mother who never met her grandchildren. Now I understand why." The note garnered over 200 million views in 24 hours, with comments in dozens of languages echoing one message: justice for Diana. As public outcry grew, Parliament saw something unseen since 1936, a proposal for an independent royal commission to investigate the Crown's role in the tragedy that changed the nation's history. Time magazine was incisive. "It's not just a moral crisis, it's the greatest political dilemma of the post-Elizabeth era." While London buzzed with debates and protests, Camilla remained reclusive. No photos, no appearances, just rumors until a leak surfaced. Camilla had sent a handwritten letter to William and Harry. Unfiltered by secretaries, "I don't ask for forgiveness. I only wish you lived more fully than your mother ever could." Was it a plea for peace or a belated gesture of guilt? Society remained divided. A new YouGov poll showed 48% of Britons wanted Camilla to renounce her queen consort title. 39% believed she deserved some forgiveness. But the dominant question was different. Is Charles still legitimate as king in a live CNN report? A journalist captured the sentiment: "We're not just facing a monarchy crisis. We're witnessing the slow, painful end of an era." Camilla wrote in her letter, "I don't ask you to forgive the past, but I promise the truth won't be buried under the crown for Diana, my children, and the monarchy's future." The letter calmed some but didn't quell the public's fury. Parliamentary voices openly demanded Charles's abdication, with William as the only way to restore the monarchy's image for a generation that no longer accepted silence. Outside the palace, crowds didn't relent. Banners fluttered. Cries echoed. And one sound persisted: the echo of Diana's footsteps crossing history. No longer a memory, but a warning that could never be silenced. A new question spread like wildfire among Britons. Was Diana's death an accidental tragedy or the product of coldly calculated decisions? A group of former intelligence agents, lawyers, and journalists formed Operation Uncover, aiming to reopen archives and unravel Diana's final 72 hours. They believe Camilla's revelations are just the tip of the iceberg. Then, a new witness emerged: Elizabeth Harwood, a former Clarence House communications team member. In a live interview, she revealed, minutes after the Paris accident, before any official report, "I was instructed to prepare a press release." To her, it was clear a script was ready before the tragedy was confirmed. The revelation fueled theories. Did the top brass know Diana was in danger and choose to control the narrative rather than save her? Political analysts warned. We're not just seeing a royal family crumble. We're witnessing the collapse of public trust in the monarchy's foundations. The streets of London, Edinburgh, and Manchester filled with peaceful demonstrations, posters, photos, candles, and a single cry from thousands: the truth doesn't die in silence. In response, William held a private ceremony at Kensington Palace with close family, friends, and children from Diana's social causes. He spoke briefly but powerfully, defining his future as heir. My mother said, "Compassion doesn't need a crown to be recognized. Today, I understand. And I promise as a son, a father, a future heir, I won't let the truth be buried under tradition, power, or fear." For many, it signaled William's preparation to transform the monarchy forever. Polls showed 68% of Britons wanted him on the throne within 3 years. 20% said, "We don't need kings, we need leaders who inspire trust." Meanwhile, Camilla vanished from public view. A discreet image from a Congo convent showed her alone in a chapel. Gray-haired, dressed modestly not as a queen but as someone seeking forgiveness she may never find. Autumn arrived. Leaves fell along Windsor's paths. But there were no red carpets, just wind and memories time couldn't erase. Diana Spencer, the people's princess, has been gone for nearly 30 years. But her name, story, and cry for justice live on, not for crowns or official speeches, but for the collective conscience that refuses to forget. Do you believe in justice? That is the greatest question we face after hearing these shocking revelations about the British royal family, a story not just about Camilla, Charles, or Princess Diana, but about us, the onlookers. Nearly 3 decades later, the truth didn't emerge from grand marble palaces or public speeches. It came from tears, choked confessions, and the silent gazes of those forced to remain in the shadows. Today, as the pieces fall into place, we don't just face the question, who is to blame, but what will we do with this truth? Will we let it fade into oblivion, buried under history's dust? Or will it change how we view power, fame, and sacrifice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice carries more weight than you think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to catch the next videos, where we'll continue unraveling the mysteries behind the royal curtain. Justice doesn't only reside in courtrooms. It begins with daring to face the truth,